In this week's parasha, Parashat Shelach, we have the mitzvah of tzitzit. The very end of the parasha is the third paragraph of the Shema that we say every single day, that if we have a four-cornered garment, we're going to put on the four corners tzitzit. 4 strings, 3 of them white, and 1 of them Tekhelet. So what's the idea of these strings? These 4 strings, 3 white, 1 Tekhelet. What's the idea? I mean, we spoke about this last year, different interpretations, but this year I saw something really awesome out there, which I thought was great. So let's talk about it a little. So famous Chazal, famous Gemara and Midrash. So what does the Tekhelet remind us of? Or item oto, you're going to see it. What is it in the singular? The Tekhelet string. And it's going to remind you of Hashem. Says the Gemara, it's going to remind you the blue, this turquoise blue, whatever that exact color is going to remind you of the ocean. The ocean is going to remind you of the heavens. The heavens are going to take you up to the Kisei HaKavod, Hashem's holy throne, and up to Hashem himself. So or item oto, says one of the rabbis in the Gemara, isn't going on the string, it's going on Hashem. Or item oto meaning Hashem. By looking at this string of Tekhelet, it's going to take you up to the heavens all the way to Hashem himself. How does that work? So here's the idea that I saw. I think it's unbelievable. If we go back to Parashat Mishpatim, we're going back in time a little bit in the Torah, when we got the Torah, right after Har Sinai, when Moshe Rabbeinu was going up to get the 10 Commandments, to get the Luchot. So this is a Dvar Torah I saw in a Sefer by Rav Meidan, Kikarov Elecha, unbelievable ideas. It says as follows. The end of the Parasha in Mishpatim has a couple of Pesukim that are some of the most mystical Pesukim in the whole Torah. When Moshe goes up the mountain to get the Torah, to get the Luchot, this is after Hashem spoke to the Jewish people, gave the 10 Commandments. Now it's time for Moshe to go up to actually get the tablets, the Luchot themselves. So the pasuk over there says, this is back in the book of Shemot, Perek Kaf Dalet Pasuk Tet. Vayal Moshe v'Aaron Nadav v'Avihu v'Shivim b'Zei Knei Yisrael. Moshe Rabbeinu, Aaron, Nadav, Avihu, and the 70 elders, they start going up the mountain. They start climbing up Har Sinai. And then it says, and ultimately Moshe is going to go up himself all the way. Yoshua will be somewhere in the middle, and the rest are going to go down to watch the people. But it says, and they saw something. They saw this awesome sight. Vayir'u et Elohei Yisrael. They saw the God of Israel. They saw Elohim, not Yud Kei Vav Kei over here, but they saw the Yud. They saw Elohim. They saw some kind of image, vision of God, whatever that means. V'tachat raglav, and under Hashem's feet, kema'aseh livnat hasapir u'cha'etzem hashamayim latohar. What they saw was like a brick of sapphire, a livnat hasapir, a brick of sapphire, this turquoise bluish brick, u'cha'etzem hashamayim latohar, and like the essence of the heavens in purity, some kind of heavenly pure vision up there in the shamayim. What in the world is going on over here? They're seeing these bricks, and if you look at the word livnat hasapir, is it sapphire? Is it a brick of sapphire? Or is it white and sapphire? The lavan or livnat? There's all these discussions. These are very enigmatic. These are some kind of analogy for some deeper vision of Hashem. A lot has been written on that, but here's the idea that I saw. Okay, so it says that this is what they saw. They saw these colors, these bricks, these heavens under Hashem's feet. So what is the idea of under Tachat Raglav, under God's feet? What is under Hashem's feet? So if you look throughout the Nevi'im, and you look throughout the Tehillim as well, you have this concept known as Hadom Raglav. What is Hadom Raglav? Hadom Raglav means Hashem's footstool, his ottoman. Hashem has a place for his feet, meaning, symbolically, what does this mean? There's this awesomeness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it is greatness, but we can never tap into that greatness, we can never connect to that greatness. But if we go down to Hashem's feet, or if we go down to under Hashem's feet, Tachat Raglav, meaning this is how Hashem is going to relate to us from the highest level of heavens down to the lowest level of the physical world below. So the lowest level of the world down below is like beneath God's feet. That's kind of the world we live in today. So in a certain aspect, if you look at the different Nevi'im that speak about this, and you're going to have David HaMelech will speak about the Hadom Raglav, both in the Tehillim and in the Navi itself, Divrei Yamim, and we're going to find it in the different Nevi'im, like Yechezkel. They're going to speak about this concept of under Hashem's feet. And so under Hashem's feet either means the whole world, meaning the whole world in one aspect, this physical world, this lower level, this world of Asiyah, the lower level world that we live in a certain aspect, is under Hashem's feet. But more specifically, the Beit HaMikdash, the Mishkan, the tabernacle, the temple, when it's in Yerushalayim, that's considered to be Hashem's real Hadom Raglav, the real place for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to put his feet down, and specifically the Kodesh HaKodashim and the Aron, the holy ark in the Holy of Holies. That's going to be the real place of God's ottoman. So God's ottoman, in a certain perspective, is going to be the Aron. Now, says Rav Meidan, if you look at the old pictures and the old records on the king's footstool, you have like the Melech Basar Badam, you have this king of flesh and blood sitting on his great throne. and then his feet go on top of this footstool. And the footstool, this ottoman, in a lot of places acts as a chest, as a treasure chest, where maybe his most important documents, the most important shtarot of his kingdom, the things with his seal, the most important documents are going to be inside this ottoman, inside this footstool where he puts his feet, so that way it's close to him, that's way it's next to him, it's next to the throne. And that's like the image of the hadom, of the ottoman, is this image of like a teva, of a chest that's going to hold the very important stuff. So says Rav Meidan, if that's true, so wait a second, what did we just say? What's the Hadom of Hashem? The Hadom of Hashem is probably the Aron. In the Holy of Holies, we have the Ark. The Ark is the holiest item in there. And what's in this box? It kind of even looks a little bit from certain angles. It could even look like an ottoman. So what's inside this box? I think of sometimes like the piano stools, that in the stools they'll put like the notes for like the music. What's inside the Aron? What's the holy documents of Hashem? It's going to be the Torah. It's going to be the Luchot. What's going to go in the Aron? The Aron, of course, is going to have the Luchot. So says Rav Meidan, what is the holy document that we're talking about right now? The Luchot. Now, what were the Luchot? The Luchot, according to a lot of the Midrashim, were made out of sapir. They come from the sapir stone. So if we're talking now about the livnat sapir, they're looking now into the heavens and they see like this like sapphire stone brick type items. Maybe that's the Luchot. Maybe they're looking at the Luchot, because right now the Mishkan isn't built yet. Right now we're going to have ourselves, in the future they're going to build a Mishkan, then they're going to build a Beit HaMikdash down below. That's going to be the home of Hashem down below. But we know there's a Beit HaMikdash in the Shamayim. There's the holy temple up above, and in the holy temple up above, there's probably also a similar image in the heavens. So what's the similar image in the heavens? So now if you're looking up into the Shamayim, so now the Hadom of Aglav is going to be in the Shamayim because the Mishkan wasn't built yet. And what's going to be in that Hadom? The Luchot. So now they're looking up into the Shamayim where Moshe is going to be getting the Luchot. So God's holy document of sapphire is up there in the heavens, in the Mishkan Shalmala. Now, according to many midrashim, the Torah in the Shamayim is black fire and white fire. We spoke about this last year before Shavuot. This mystical idea is of black fire, white fire, which compares a lot to the black ink on the white scroll. But says Rav Meidan, there might be a different perspective or a different way to look at the Torah in the Shamayim from a different angle. And he explains that there's other midrashim that say that it's actually Gemara and Shabbat of Kuf Daled Amud Aleph that says that the luchot themselves were engraved into the stone. They were chiseled through, and says Amar Rav Chazda, Mem v'Samech shabaduchot benes hayu omdim. The letter Mem and Samech would stand on would remain in midair miraculously. Because if you take a Mem Sofit, the final Mem, as well as a Samech, those are circles, and there's a round ring around it. So if there's a round ring or a round square or a square out there, the middle part of the letter has to stay in midair because nothing is holding it up. Whenever you're cutting through construction paper, a letter O, it's hard to have an O with an inner O. So the Samach and the Mem had the stone standing in the middle with the ring going around miraculously being open. So if you looked at the Luchot, you could see through it. You can see the sky. You can see through the letters. Now, if you look at the Luchot, you think the stone was Lavan. Maybe the Livnat, which we translate it first as brick, but others translate as Lavan, as white. You have this white stone. So now if you're down below, you're Yoshua, you're the Zkenim, you're the elders, you're everybody down below. You're looking up at the Shamayim, and Moshe Rabbeinu getting the Torah, the holiest part, Tachat Raglav, what's under Hashem's feet, the holiest shtarot, the holiest document, the Luchot. And you're looking and you see these Luchot. And these Luchot are white stone, but then they're chiseled all the way through, and you see the background, the letters themselves are, the letter Samach itself is the sky, it's the heavens, and that's the pasuk. K'maaseh libnat hasapir u'che'etzem hashamayim latohar. You have yourself the stone, but then you also have yourself the Shamayim, you have yourself the heavens that actually make up the letters. So while our Torah down below that we write on scroll is going to be black ink and white parchment, now you have the white stone in the Shamayim with the blue writing because it's chiseled all the way through. So you have yourself the sky as the ink, so to speak, for the Torah. So now we have what seems to be blue and white as the colors of the Torah, as opposed to the black and white, a different angle, the Torah of the Shamayim. And then says Rav Meidan, with this maybe we can understand there's the deeper understanding taking place with the tzitzit. When you have yourselves the three strings, the white, that's the outside parchment, and you have yourself the blue string, the Tekhelet, that becomes the actual writing on the parchment. That's the ink, so to speak, and that's the idea. You look at the Tekhelet, it's going to remind you of the Shamayim, it's going to remind you of the Kisei HaKavod, the holy throne, or maybe now it's going to remind you of the Hadom Raglav, the ottoman, right? God under Tachat Raglav. What's under the Kisei HaKavod, the Luchot? And there actually are different versions of the Midrashim that until you get to the Kisei HaKavod, You're first going to go through the luchot themselves, which are made from the same material. But that's the idea. Maybe the Tekhelet is taking us back all the way to Matan Torah, to the giving of the Torah, to the Shamayim of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and might give us a little bit of deeper insight into the ideas of Chazal. Shabbat Shalom.